So again, welcome to the stress management talk, and this is the last in our series for this series. Objective, just to give you an understanding of what stress is, understand the impact of stress on our health, how it affects your health, what it does in your body, and how that can lead to chronic diseases. I'll go into detail on all of those. And then at the end of it, have some tools to help with the management of stress. So I thought this was a cute little picture. On your, you can try to see where you are on a low level or high level, and it may change from day to day, from month to month. So just being able to gauge where you are and what tools you can engage with to help reduce your stress. A brief outline of what I will be going over. So introduction, I think most of you know, have worked with me or been in one of our sessions, but if you're new, then a little introduction about myself and a brief review of lifestyle medicine and what we have covered so far. And then we'll talk about the statistics of stress in the US, a definition, the different types of stress, because not all stress is bad, physiology of stress, the impact of stress on our mind and body, and some tools for stress management. And then we'll review the take-home messages. I will have some resources for you, where to go, what apps to use, where you can get on YouTube videos, all of those things will all be on there. So if you're not, you don't have to be taking notes because these will be shared with you. All right. So a little bit about myself. My name is Praveena Kumar. I am a dietitian. Brief review of my education. I did my undergrad at UC Davis in clinical nutrition. And then I went to San Francisco State for my master's. I also did my internship through San Francisco State. And I did my clinical nutrition rotation at Alta Bates Summit in Oakland and Berkeley. And then I ended up, I also did I am also a certified yoga therapist and an Ayurvedic wellness practitioner. So I tried to include those on my little pictures here. So nutrition and meditation and yoga. So work-wise, as I mentioned, I did my internship at Alta Bates Summit Medical Center in Oakland. Then I ended up staying there for 14 years doing clinical nutrition. So when you're in the hospital right after you've had your stent or open heart surgery, you come onto the floor. So I would see the patients there and do a brief education, but also trying to figure out if you're not able to eat, you have some GI issues or whatever, we'd figure out the tube feedings and those kinds of things. So the clinical stuff. So I did that for a while and then realized that I needed to do more preventative if I could. So I left the hospital and then I did a few different things. I worked in an outpatient setting, and then I worked for a startup company, and then I came to Marine Health. So I've been here, it'll be 2 years next month. So I work, I see the phase 2 patients. I also work with the phase 2 patients. I do one-on-one counseling. And I also work in the women's health program, which is in Nevada with Dr. Sharifi. And then for the intensive cardiac rehab program, which I will review at the end of the session, is or our ONISH program, which some of you have done. I do the stress management part of it. So we have 2 hours per week sessions, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I work with patients on stress management. And I will go more into detail with that. I also do some consulting with other companies. I have a private practice when I have the time. So I do a bunch of different things. So that was a little bit about myself. Moving on to lifestyle medicine. So the series we're doing is the wellness series. Started off by Dr. Nishtala. He talked about overall lifestyle medicine and how it impacts us and why it's so important. And then Beth did an amazing talk on nutrition, eating plants or having a plant forward or plant predominant diet and the importance of that. And then followed by Matt, who did a great talk on being keeping moving, exercise, and the impact of that on our health. So following in the steps of these amazing talks, I'm going to try to do my best and talk about staying calm or doing stress management. In addition to those, we also, part of the lifestyle medicine is sleeping, which is in very, very important, relationships, which we talk about in our Ornish program, and then also substance abuse, avoiding risky substances. So these are the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. And then moving on to stress management, since that's what you're here for. So some statistics of stress management in the United States. I thought this was interesting. 75 to 90% of all of doctors' visits, office visits, are from stress-related illnesses and complaints, which is pretty high. Stress has been linked to, I'm going to reduce this so I can see. Stress has been linked to the 6 leading causes of death: heart disease, which has been number 1 for a very long time, cancer, lung ailments, accidents, cirrhosis of liver, and suicide. So these are pretty serious diseases, and stress is linked to almost all of those. Okay. Continuing on with the statistics. So according to the American Institute of Stress, and there is such an organization because it is important, Americans are one of the most stressed out populations in the world. So the current stress level experienced by Americans is 20% higher than the global average. And the global average of the number of stressed people out of 143 countries is 35%. 63% of US workers are ready to quit their jobs to avoid work-related stress. And knowing that not everybody has the luxury of quitting their jobs when they're ready, because that's how you support yourself, that's how you support your family. Some people have more stressful jobs than others. Some people work 3 jobs a week, and the stress builds up, and that shows up in other parts of our lives. Montana is the least stressed US state, with a total stress score of 26.81, while Louisiana, on the other hand, is the most stressed, so almost double the amount. Now, all this talk about stress, so how is it defined? So we all have some degree of stress in our lives, and as I mentioned earlier, not all stress is bad. We have evolved over time to respond to stress in a certain way, which enhances our survival. And we will talk more about that. So according to the American Institute of Stress, people have very different ideas with respect to definitions of stress. One of the most common ones is physical, mental, or emotional strain or tension. Another popular definition is a condition or feeling experienced when a person perceives that the demands exceed the personal and social resources the individual is able to mobilize. So feeling overwhelmed, not having the time, not having the capability to take care of everything that's coming at you from all different directions. And that builds up. And then we react in certain ways, and trying to reduce that is the goal. So the different types of stress. Okay. So eustress, which is positive stress. So not all stress, as I mentioned, is bad. Then there's distress, and most people are familiar with that term, which is negative stress. And then within that group, we have acute stress, so episodic related to a particular event, chronic stress, which builds up and can be toxic. And we'll discuss all of those. So positive stress. Examples: getting on a roller coaster. You have that little drop in your stomach, your body's tense, but you're excited about it if you like roller coasters. Skydiving, if that's what you enjoy doing. Bungee jumping, having a baby, giving a performance. Me giving a talk right now, a little nervous, so the stress builds up, and then when the event is over, when I'm done with this presentation, I'll be a little bit less stressed. So temporary, but it's like for a good cause or something exciting that's being built up. Okay, distress or acute versus chronic stress. So acute stress that's only lasts for a short period of time, so episodic, as the name suggests. Now, this could include situations such as sitting for an exam, starting a new job, giving a speech, or being faced with a work deadline. So all of those, like I said, related, you build up to that. You're nervous about starting a new job or taking an exam. You've studied, you're not sure how you'll be performing. So there is stress, but as soon as that event is done, most likely the body typically bounces back well from acute stress if the stress experience is effectively managed by the person. Then you can like take a long deep breath and relax or do whatever you need to, and then you're back to normal. For some people, this is hard, but you have to see how your body reacts to that and try to find a way to release that stress. Now, chronic stress, on the other hand, according to Yale Medicine, is a consistent sense of feeling pressured and overwhelmed over a long period of time. And some of the causes, not main causes of chronic stress could be poverty, financial issues, a dysfunctional relationship that could be a marriage or family or relatives. Any of those things can be stressful, or taking care of a loved one who's sick, or sitting by someone in a hospital, not knowing what's going to happen. All of those things, chronic diseases, a deeply dissatisfying job. So there are many, many examples. These are just some of them. So in today's hectic society, there are many possible sources. So you can see what evaluating and seeing where your stress lies, is it chronic or acute, and what you can do about it. So chronic stress slowly drains a person's psychological resources and can damage their brains and bodies. And we'll talk about that. All right. So physiology of stress. So what happens when you are under a lot of stress? Realizing that stress affects all aspects of systems, affects all of the systems of the body, including musculoskeletal, respiratory, cardiovascular, endocrine system, gastrointestinal, so your GI issues, stomach issues, nervous system, as well as reproductive system. So basically, stress has an impact on your entire body and your mind. Common symptoms of stress. So some of this may be familiar. So common reactions to a stressful event or situation can include feelings of alarm, disbelief, fear, shock, anger, sadness, worry, numbness, or frustration, or some other emotions that may come up, or feelings that may come up. Changes in your appetite. You may or may not be very hungry. Energy level, desires and interests. When your mind is focused on one particular thing, it's hard to think about other things that may be of interest. Difficulty sleeping, so insomnia, concentrating and making decisions. Physical reactions such as headache, body pains, stomach problems, and skin rashes. So it develops, it manifests in different ways in different people. So figuring out how your body responds to stress, and then seeing what you can, what the solutions to those are. Worsening of chronic health problems. So if you already have a pre-existing chronic condition, health condition, then having excess stress can make that worse. Worsening of mental health conditions, again, as well as increase in use of caffeine, tobacco, alcohol, and other substances. So this is a picture of basically what we went over in the other slide. So heartburn, so stomach issues, nausea, vomiting, any rapid breathing, so it affects your heart rate. Risk of heart attack can go up, heart pounding, palpitations, fertility problems, erectile dysfunction, for women, missed periods, again, sleeping issues, your immune system becomes weak, your blood sugar rises, and we'll talk about that, your blood pressure rises, stomach ache, low sex drive, tense muscles. So all of these are responses to stress. And then knowing that when this continues to be the issue, your blood pressure continues to be high, your blood pressure, sugar, blood pressure, all of those continue to be high, weakened immune system can lead to other problems. All right. And then this is another important thing. So Dr. Jane Ornish talks about telomeres and lifespan. So telomeres are the ends of your chromosomes that control aging. So chronic stress can contribute to the shortening of your telomeres. So the shorter the telomeres, the shorter your lifespan. 9 to 17 years of decrease, shortening of lifespan from stress. So I think they did a study with two mothers one taking care of a sick child, and then the other one being able to take care of themselves. The shortening of the telomeres because of the stress leads to shorter lifespan. So this is just an expansion. I put this here so you can see like this is a cell, which we are made up of trillions of cells in our bodies. So each cell has a nucleus, which is the center of it. And then within the nucleus, you have the chromosomes with DNA. So these are the ends of the chromosomes, and they're like in your shoe caps in your shoelaces at the top, the plastic ones. So as the length decreases, our lifespan decreases. So the goal is with stress management to keep those the length maintained so they don't reduce. And then moving on to our brain, understanding how our brain, the very basic function of our brain works, and then how stress is related to that. So the center of it, as you can see in this picture, the center is a reptilian brain or primal brain, so these are your survival instincts, like basic survival instincts. So controls our breathing and our blood glucose and our heart rate and our body temperature. It's the basic things that keep us alive. So above that is our limbic system, which controls our emotions, fear and arousal and anxiety. So all the things that happen when our body is stressed. And then above that is our neocortex. So this is where the higher functions happen. Cognitive functions, language, abstract thought, imagination, all of these. So the higher thinking skills happen up here, speech and logic. So these impact one another. So it's not like they're so separated, but they work together. So think about a time when you're really hungry or angry or scared. You may not make very sound decisions. So maybe you want to have a meal before you make any drastic, or when you're stressed out, you don't want to make any decisions that maybe affect you long term. Or thinking about your mortality can increase your heart rate. So these are all related. So I just wanted to give you a picture of a basic understanding of your brain. And then I have another version of that we usually teach kids. So this is called the hand-brain model, and I talk about this sometimes in our Ornish program, so some of you may be familiar with this. So we teach this to kids just so they understand how the brain works. So this concept was created by Dr. Dan Siegel. He is a psychiatrist, I think at UC San Diego. So it's called the hand-brain model. So if you put your hand up, hopefully you can see my hand. So your wrist is your spinal cord, and your palm is your brainstem, which regulates your body functions, including your immune system, keeps us breathing, reacts automatically to stimuli, to light and sound. Your thumb is your limbic system. So this is your basic survival. Then your thumb is your limbic system, center of emotions in the brain, differentiates pleasure and pain, tells us what we want and what we fear. Then when you wrap your fingers over the thumb, see the connection that forms. So, and if you put it over here, that's kind of like your brain. So the fingers, which are your cerebral cortex, is the thinking brain. So, and then the fingertips, which is over here, is your prefrontal cortex, the area thought to be very important to identify self-concept, self-esteem, also the area that can modulate what happens in a limbic system. So if we are not too stressed out, there's a normal, like our brain stays online, so there's a connection happening and we're able to make decisions, manage stress, all of those things. So then there's this concept of flipping a lid. So when we get too stressed out, when we're overwhelmed, so we basically go offline. So our prefrontal cortex goes offline and we basically like flip our lid. So that's a way what they teach the kids is to understand and recognize their emotions. So they know that like when they are ready to flip their lid, and they can trying to teach them how to maybe do some breathing exercises or something to come back to where they feel a little bit less stressed. So I thought that was a nice concept, an easy way to remember is if you just use your hand. And then our central nervous system. So Our central nervous system, or CNS, is a combination of our brain and our spinal cord. So brain, spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system is the nerves that branch out from the central nervous system all over our body, which consists of our somatic nervous system. This is maybe a little too technical, but it'll help you understand. Guides our voluntary movement, so moving our arms and legs and all of those things. Autonomic nervous system, which is also part of the peripheral nervous system, activities we do without thinking about them. So heartbeat, blinking our eyes, all of those things happen, breathing. And this is made up of, so autonomic nervous system is made up of a sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. And you may be familiar with these two terms. So sympathetic nervous system, unlike the name, controls the stress response. So sympathetic is stress response. Parasympathetic nervous system controls the relaxation response. Okay. So going a little bit deeper into what these two systems are. So sympathetic nervous system or sympathetic response is also called the fight, flight, or freeze response. And we are wired to scan for danger. So anytime there's danger around us, anytime you walk into a room, maybe the next time if you walk into an unfamiliar area, we automatically scan the room. We may be doing it unconsciously just to make sure there's no danger around us. We feel safe. So evolutionarily, we've been designed to do this, so we're wired to do this. So think about, and you may have heard about, this is a classic example of stress response. So when our ancestors were out hunting and gathering, looking for food, and there was a saber-toothed tiger that came in front of them, so your body automatically goes into this response. So it's called the fight, flight, or freeze. So fight, where you're ready to fight the tiger. Flight, you're running away from the tiger, or you freeze, whether you're like you can't do anything. So our body reacts different ways. So when our mind detects danger, several changes happen within minutes or within. So adrenaline and norepinephrine, which are chemicals, hormones, and what do you call neurotransmitters, which are produced in and like flow into our blood. So this gives us more energy, increases our blood flow, so we're ready to run away, or and allows our heart to beat faster. Our pupils dilate so we can see better, see clearly. Our heart rate, our blood pressure, and our blood glucose levels increase. Arteries constrict, so blood clots faster. So if you get bitten by the tiger, you don't bleed to death, so your blood will clot faster. Breathing becomes fast and shallow. You're breathing more from the chest instead of long, deep breaths because you want to, the blood's flowing faster and you want to be able to breathe faster. Our muscles become tense, so it protects our body, inner organs from damage. And all of the non-essential systems in our body, including digestions, are suppressed. So when you're being chased by a tiger, digesting your food is not as important because you may not survive that. So all the non-essential systems are kind of suppressed. So you may notice your stomach may be a little upset in our current situation. So this is an example of the saber-toothed tiger. But if the same thing happens when we lose our key or lose our phone or you get a message on the phone that something happened, our body goes through the same transition. All of these things happen. So parasympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, also called the rest and digest, which is the calming response. So when our body realizes that the danger has passed, it relaxes. So the opposite of everything happens. Our pupils constrict, our heart rate, our blood pressure, and blood sugars come back to normal. Breathing becomes normal. Your muscles relax. You take a deep, long exhale. Our stress hormones decrease. Our digestion and all the other bodily functions that had been suppressed come back online. So you're undoing the effects of stress. Okay. So just a picture of everything that happens. So parasympathetic nervous system on the left constricts pupils, stimulates saliva, slow heartbeat, airways constrict, stimulating activity of the stomach, stimulating gallbladder, so it can digest fat. All of these happen. And then on the other side, sympathetic nervous system, when your body's under a lot of stress, these things are pupils dilate, I guess, as I mentioned, so you can see better, and all of these other changes happen. So just a quick review of that. And then so brain, our brain stem, spinal cord, and then all of the nerves that innervate from here. Okay, so how does all of this impact our mind and body? So another thing I forgot to mention, so we have chronic, acute stress, all of these things happen. Same thing happens, chronic stress. So when the acute stress becomes chronic stress, then that can lead to disease. So if your blood pressure continues to remain high, if your blood sugar continues to remain high, if your body's constantly under inflammation, if your heart rate, if your risk for heart disease continues to go up high, your immune system is suppressed, our telomeres continue to reduce in size, which disrupts our lifespan, disruption in our sleep, so insomnia, not being able to get enough sleep, all of those things lead to disease. So this is how stress, our mind and our brains and our body work together. And if things are not in balance, then that can lead to disease, disruption in our work. And these are some of the things that lead to chronic disease. And if you have a pre-existing chronic disease and if you're under a lot of stress, then that becomes worse. Now, having said all that, what do we do about stress? So these are some of the tools that I will go over. And then, of course, there are more, and then we will have some resources. So starting off with making healthy lifestyle choices. So as you heard Beth talk about nutrition and the importance of nutrition in our health and wellness, and you heard Matt about it, and then Dr. Nishala talked about overall health and wellness, sleep, which we will probably address at a later time because it is an important topic. Followed by breathing techniques. There are breathing techniques that you can do to help your body relax, come back to homeostasis, mindfulness and meditation, movement, knowing how important exercise is, as well as yoga postures, Pilates, dancing, any kind of movement, nature therapy, pet therapy, laughter, community. All of these things can be helpful in managing stress. But understanding that these practices may not necessarily reduce your stress, your external environment, but how you react to, you'll be able to manage stress better and you'll be able to respond to it instead of reacting to it. So maybe a change in perspective and how your body responds to it may change, even though you cannot change your external environment all the time. All right. So breathing techniques. So you may think like, I breathe all the time. What's the big deal about breathing? So there are certain ways of breathing where you can actually engage your parasympathetic nervous system. So make our stress response better and disengage disengage the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight, and engage or bring online our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest and de-stress. So our breath is important because it is the link between our mind and body. So the way we think and feel affects the way we breathe, and the way we breathe affects the way we think and feel. So when we feel stressed, when you're being chased by something, or when you have bad news or something, automatically you realize you're holding on to your breath. You take a deep breath and you hold it. It may not be for too long, but that's an automatic response. And our breath, as I mentioned earlier, becomes very shallow. We can use some simple breathing practices as tools to break the stress cycle and bring balance to the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So bringing that, decreasing sympathetic, bringing online the sympathetic nervous system. One of the easiest and quickest ways to control stress is to continuously breathe slowly and deeply. You may not be able to do this throughout the day, but taking time during the day to stop and notice how you're breathing. How is my breath today? Maybe a couple of times during the day. Sometimes taking just longer, 2 or 3 longer, deeper breaths will help you relax a little bit more. Making your exhalations longer engages your parasympathetic nervous system. So it's simple as that. May not make all your stress disappear, but it'll make you feel better. And of course, there are several types of breathing techniques, including pranayama in yoga. If you are familiar with yoga, there are a whole a series of breathing exercises that you can do. depending on the desired effect on our mind and body. Sometimes when we're sluggish, we can do some practices that speed up our metabolism, make us more alert. And then sometimes we need something more calming and soothing. So there are different types of breathing exercises that you can do. Benefits of breathing, apart from the fact that it keeps us alive, restores the natural breathing rhythm, calms and balances our nervous system, increases oxygen circulation in our blood, helps increase awareness of our internal state, lowers our blood pressure and heart rate. So those are all good things. So experimenting with different breathing exercises, keeping in mind that there are lots of information out there and lots of new, and the new thing to do is like the breathing workshops. Be careful if you go to a class, if you have high blood pressure, you want to be careful with like the super fast breathing systems because that may not be as beneficial. So just be mindful of that. Check, ask questions before you sign up for any classes. And then moving on to movement, we definitely did a whole series when Matt gave the talk, so I won't go too much into detail. But according to the Mayo Clinic, exercise is almost any form can help reduce stress. Now, this can include walking, running, weight training, dancing, yoga postures, Pilates, gardening, finding what works for you. And of course, getting clearance from your cardiologist if you have any issues related to movement. We want to make sure that you are safe when you exercise. I did want to talk a little bit about yoga. So the traditional yoga, when we think about yoga here, I guess more so in the Western world, we think about the yoga postures. Like you see pictures of yoga magazines with pictures of models like doing handstands or being super flexible, which automatically puts a lot of people like, oh my God, I can't do that, so I can't do yoga. Or and then so all of those. So just it's only related to the postures, but yoga in the traditional sense means meditation. So if you look at the old text, yoga means meditation. Now, there are 8 limbs of yoga, and one of the ones is the postures. There are all these other parts of yoga, which is a combination, and the end goal is meditation, to be able to sit quietly and be able to meditate. Have your clear mind is the goal of yoga. So the movement, when you start doing the postures, you start lengthening your breath. After you do the postures, you move into breathing. You do some breathing techniques to help slow down your breath, slow down your mind a little bit more so you have less thoughts. And then that makes it easier to sit down and meditate for a longer period of time. But starting anywhere is helpful. So if you go to a yoga class, ask what type of yoga they do. The super fast ones with loud music may not be the best if the goal is to try to de-stress. And then moving on to mindfulness, which again is a part of yoga. And I thought this little cartoon was cute. So you have a man and his dog. So the man has a mind full of all these things that are going on, whereas the dog only sees what's right in front of it. So do you have a mind full of stuff, or you're being mindful? So the difference between mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness is the practice of intentionally bringing one's attention to the present moment experience without evaluation or judgment. So being mindful right now is you're sitting at your home or wherever you are, listening to me talk, paying attention to the slides, being aware of what's around you and being present, being fully present. Although you may be like making a list of things you have to do, thinking about dinner, but then coming back to where you are now. Meditation, on the other hand, is the act of keeping the mind focused on one object. So when our concentration is steadied, it leads to one-pointed focus or meditation. So, and that object can be your breath, it can be a sound, it can be anything of your choice, hopefully something pleasant. And this allows us to stay centered while observing the natural ups and downs of our mind. Those who meditate daily often comment that the things that used to bother them don't bother them anymore. So that's one advantage of a mindfulness and meditation. Okay, benefits of meditation. So increases or improves concentration and focus, So you're able to, since you're sitting there and trying to focus on one thing, whether it's your breath or a mantra or a phrase or a sound, or you're looking at a candle, any of those things are different ways of meditating. There are many, many, many ways of meditating. And all of these topics, stress management overall, and meditation and yoga are huge topics, just as nutrition and exercise is. So we're trying to like concentrate all of that information into 1 hour and may not get to all of it. But some of the benefits of meditation: increases or improves concentration and focus, increases our threshold for stress and our ability to respond versus react. So it gives you a little bit of pause. So before something happens, somebody says something to you, it gives you a little bit of pause before you respond, as opposed to like kind of literally flipping your lid and going off on that person, or getting mad, or writing down an angry email, or however you may respond to stress. So lengthens our fuse so we don't flip our lid as easily. So remembering that concept of the hand-brain model. Helps create a more calm, clear, and sharpened mind, provides insight and inspiration, reduces our blood pressure. 10 minutes a day, 7 days a week is better than doing just 1 hour once a week, doing a full hour once a week. So small amounts as your body, you have day-to-day stresses. If you continue to do a little bit, that helps deal with that stress, as opposed to letting it build up and then just do 1 hour once a week. The other thing that I wanted to mention, a little bit of research. So there, in the past, like say 15 to 20 years, there are lots and lots of research. If you go to PubMed and you type meditation, tons of stuff come up. So I just wanted to pick a few. So Dr. Amishi Jha wrote a book called Peak Mind. She's done a lot of research with students, college students, and lots of different people on the health benefits of meditation. And she's come up with a number, because one of the most common questions I get is like, well, how long should I meditate to get the benefits of it? So in order to answer that, the answer to that, I should say, is benefiting a minimum of 13 minutes a day. So if you can meditate for 13 minutes a day, you start to see benefits. You start to see some changes in your brain. And that may be temporary, because if you meditate for a month for 13 minutes or 15 minutes, and then you stop, the benefits go away. One Harvard study showed that it does increases gray matter in our frontal cortex of the brain. A follow-up study to that suggests that there are also changes in the brain volume after 8 weeks of meditation in 5 different regions of the brain, which is pretty cool. Another book that has some good information is called Altered Traits by Daniel Goleman and Richard Davidson. So they talk about altered traits, meaning state change versus trait change. So state change is you're feeling really stressed, your blood pressure is high, you sit down and meditate for 20 minutes, your blood pressure comes down, you're feeling a little bit lighter, change in state from being stressed to de-stressed. Trait change is the chromosomes that you saw, the DNA level of it. So that happens more so with if you meditate for like 2 hours a day, every day for many, many years. And that happens more to monks who've been like, their purpose of their life is to sit and meditate and think about the state of the world and how they can solve some problems. So you and me, just doing 20 minutes a day, or however long, or an hour if you can, or 13 minutes a day. That's good enough for us, because what we're trying to do is just deal with the day-to-day stuff and reduce our stress level, so we can reduce our risk for diseases. But yeah, so trait change happens at a later time if you continue with the practice. Some resources. So there are many different types of meditation, including breath awareness, gazing, sound meditation, as I mentioned, mantra meditation. So mantra means a tool for the mind. A tool that helps disrupt the thoughts in your mind so that you can focus on one thing. We are designed as animals, through evolution, to get distracted, because if you think about it, way back when they were hunting and gathering, you don't want to get so focused on picking up berries or getting your food that you're not aware of the tiger or the danger that's around you. So you want to stop every few minutes, look around, go back to what you're doing, stop, look around. So our mind is designed to wander, look around. So as soon as you close your eyes, if you've done any meditation, you take a few breaths, you're off to thinking about something else, you come back to it. There are many, many different types of meditation. So choose one that you feel good with, and then try to slowly increase. If you haven't done any, doing a few minutes, slowly building on that. Some of the resources include YouTube, has tons of good information. So some of the ones that I like are by Tara Brach, who's a Buddhist meditation teacher, Jay Shetty, who used to be a monk, has lots of good information, has lots of like 20-minute meditations. He does like 21-day meditation challenges where you can join in. Jack Cornfield, who owns, I think, Spirit Rock here in Marin, Fairfax, I want to say. So he has retreat center. Those are just some of them. There are lots and lots of good content. Apps, so some of the common ones are Calm or Headspace, Insight Timer, 10% Happier. Most of them will give you at least a 1 week or 2 week free, or 7 days of free if you download the app. And almost all of those are guided meditations. So they will talk you through with music, or with whoever the teacher is, they'll guide you through talking about your breath, or guiding you through a visualization, but there are lots of different ones. So see which ones you like. Not everybody is able to like sit there, close their eyes, and start focusing on their breath. So find what works best for you. Of course, there are like local yoga studios. Some of them offer meditation classes, online or in-person classes, lots of online. I think this happened more when COVID happened and everybody was dealing with so much stress. So lots of online information available as well. If you want any specific information, please feel free to message me or message Max, and we will try to get back to you. Meditation and yoga retreats. So these are fun. There are some intense ones where if you've never meditated before, going on a 10-day silent retreat may not be the best idea. So start slowly and then build on that. The goal is to find a practice that you connect with, that you want to come back to day after day. You want to make it pleasant so that you want to come back to it. If you sit there gritting your teeth the whole way and like white knuckling it, may not be the most pleasant experience. And then the next day you'll be like, nah, I don't want to do that. But not on the days that you don't feel like sitting and meditating, you can do a walking meditation. Taking a walk, and there are lots of information on that as well online. So guiding you through like how you pay attention as you're walking, taking in your environment, paying attention to each step that you're taking, noticing how your body's moving, how your breath is. So start slowly and try a few different styles to see which works best for you. Nature therapy is always wonderful. Spending just 20 minutes connecting with nature can help lower stress hormone levels, according to a study in the Frontiers in Psychology, which is by Harvard. So just 20 minutes being out in nature. If you're on a day you don't feel like you're too wound up, you can't sit and meditate, going out in nature, spending time among the trees, spending time in nature can help relieve stress and anxiety, improve your mood, and boost feelings of happiness and well-being. So whatever you call it, forest bathing, or they call it Shinrin Yoku, ecotherapy, mindfulness in nature, green time, or the wilderness cure, it almost always helps reduce stress. Unless you have some adverse reaction to being out in nature, it almost always is helpful. Breathing in the air, taking in the surroundings, being among trees. So humans evolved in the great outdoors, and our brain benefits from a journey back to nature, according to the American Heart Association. And then pet therapy. So if you're a pet owner, you probably can connect to that. So pet owners may reduce their risk of cardiovascular disease, not only from exercise, from walking a pet, but also from the stress management effects of the relationship we would have with our furry friends. So, I mean, their love is unconditional. Just being with them, cuddling with them, or petting them helps reduce our stress. And again, studies show that pet owners may have lower blood pressure, better cholesterol numbers, lower weight, and improved stress responses. So thank you to our furry friends for helping reduce stress for us. And then other practices. So laughter, always wonderful. I call laughter as medicine. So watching a funny movie with friends, hanging out with friends, telling jokes, laughing is always helpful. Community, creating a community of friends or family or coworkers, groups, like-minded people, working on a fun project or doing something meaningful together, or just hanging out, drinking tea, or doing something fun that helps bring you all together. You can talk about your day or your week or whatever your issues may be. If you feel comfortable in that environment, is a great way to help relieve stress. Loneliness is a huge, huge problem in the US and all over the world. So a lot of people have no one to connect to. So finding church group, any groups that you can find online, on Zoom, or being in person is even better. Going for a walk together. Any of those things are wonderful for building community and sharing time with them. Gratitude is almost always amazing. Expressing an appreciation for all that we have, all that we are, and then what we have around us, our friends, our family, our communities, our jobs, our health, all of those things, and just expressing an appreciation for that is always great, great for our stress reduction. So anytime you feel like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? Appreciating all the things, just counting like all the things that you have that are going right instead of just focusing on the one thing that's going wrong, can help reduce stress. Journaling, putting down our thoughts on paper helps reduce, because we have 50 to 70,000, and then the number is debatable. We have 50 to 70,000 thoughts on an individual day. And then out of that, they say at least, I think 70 to 80% of those are the same thoughts we had yesterday. So putting some of those thoughts down instead of having it on a loop in our brain helps reduce some stress. So once you have it on paper, it's concrete, then you can figure out what you can do with it. And again, these are some options. Not each one of these will work for everyone. So finding out what works best for you. So digital detox. I think the accumulation, like social media and all of those things, is like the sixth largest cause of stress in the US. Probably around the world as well. Maybe the number may be different. But stepping away from our screens can be starting, if you're like so attached to it that you can't, maybe when you have a meal, stepping away from it, maybe you go for a walk, putting on airplane mode or something, or when you're meeting with friends, maybe stepping away from that, just to take time away from the screen and taking a breath, noticing how you're feeling, connecting with yourself, connecting with the people around you, instead of constantly scrolling, what they call it doom scrolling. Listening to music, listening to upbeat music can make us feel more upbeat and optimistic, while slow tempo music can help us calm our minds, relax our muscles. It's more soothing. So sometimes you may, depending on what environment you are, how you're feeling, what type of music you want, can be helpful. Of course, art, drawing, painting, doing any kind of craft work, any art form can help us get in the flow state and help us relax. So in the flow state, meaning where everything else fades away and you're just focused on whatever you're creating or whatever you're doing. It can be any of these things. Or when when they get into the runner's high, like they're in that state where they're just feeling their body, feeling their breath, and everything else. And they can let go of everything else that's going around us. A little too fast. Okay, so creating time for play. I of course understand not everybody has the ability to do that. If you are able to take some time to listen to music, to do some art, to do any of these things, it's definitely a privilege to be able to do that. Not everybody's able to. Some people have to work 3 jobs to support a family, support kids. They may not have any time to do any of these things. And of course, the stress builds up. So if you don't have time to do any self-care, things build up and that can lead to problems. But if you do have the time, then definitely take advantage of finding what brings you relaxation, what helps you relax, and doing a little bit more of that. All right. So I have 5 minutes. Take home messages. Understand the impact of stress on your mind and body, hopefully. Now, like I said, it's a big topic. Hopefully you have some understanding of what stress is and how it impacts our mind and our body, what happens in our body that when we're stressed out. Identify the chronic stresses in your life, maybe making a list of if you have more than 1 or 2 things. Set some positive goals for stress reduction, incorporating 1 or a few of the stress management tools to help manage your stress better. So out of the list of things that I've listed, or if you find some other things that helps you relax, making a list of that and trying to engage in some of those daily, if possible, or every other day as time allows. Notice the impact of these practices on our mind and body. And this is a beautiful quote by Viktor Frankl. So between stimulus and response, there is a space. Maybe tiny, but there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So if you're not familiar with Viktor Frankl, he wrote, among other things, that wrote this big book called Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Holocaust survivor and he wrote his experience. He used to be a psychiatrist. Then he wrote his experience in this beautiful book called Man's Search for Meaning. And then, so just quickly going over, I was hoping I'd have more time to go over this. But so these are the programs that we offer at Marine Health. So we have our intensive cardiac rehab, which is the Ornish program. And stress management is a huge part of that program. So there are 4 pillars in the Ornish program, which is exercise, stress management, nutrition, and group support, community. So we so it's a 9-week program, and the group comes in. We have groups of like 8 to 10 people, depending, and each time it may be different. So they spend 3 hours a week exercising. They spend 2 hours a week stress management for 9 weeks. And that includes gentle stretching, which is yoga postures. They have like 6 basic postures, but depending on the group, I may add a few more or less, depending on how we do. Breathing practices. So we include like 4 or 5 different types of breathing practices. We work with imagery, which is trying to imagine positive things happening instead of all the bad things, like worrying. When we worry about something, we think about the worst possible scenario, whereas in imagery practices, we try to think of something positive. Progressive relaxation, because that helps. When your body is relaxed is when it heals. When your body is constantly tense, healing doesn't happen. And then, of course, mindfulness and meditation. So that's the Ornish program. So 2 hours a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but then we encourage the patients to practice on their own at home, and they have the resources to do that. Then we have the phase 2 program, which is cardiac rehab, the standard cardiac rehab or the traditional cardiac rehab. We have meditation Mondays. So on Mondays, when they come to exercise, we finish like 10 to 15 minutes earlier. Then we do a 10-minute meditation once a week on Mondays. So that's, and hopefully the patients can practice some of these at home. So this is just an introduction to meditation. And I try to do, I do this, and then Nancy also does this here. And we try to introduce different types of meditation, seeing which one people connect with, and then hopefully being able to practice at home. And then we have the phase 3 program, which is in the works. Hopefully it'll get up and going soon. We have meditation. We will be including meditation, same as the phase 2 program, which is 10 minutes once a week. And then final, if you have questions, you can email Robert Drake, Max, at mymarinehealth.org. And with any questions or concerns or feedback, slides will be emailed to you when IT has reviewed everything and it's ready to go. These will be mailed out to you. And I thank you for being here today with me and with all of us, and taking part in our lifestyle wellness series. And we will be letting you know when the next series starts, and we'll keep you posted on that. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.